Let's start now. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن اتبع هداه بإحسان إلى sorry اتبع هداه بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. ثم أما بعد. Just making sure that everything is working properly. Can you hear me? Okay, let me know in the chat.
Can you
Is the
repeat, sir?
sound
Yes, we
working?
can hear you and see you. Yes, yes.
Yeah, perfect.
Yes, yes.
Just making sure. Alhamdulillah. All right, let's start, inshallah, our today class, continuing the Tajweed class that we used to have. The first thing we would like to do today, as usual, is of course starting with the revision of the things we talked about previously. And inshallah, after this, we're gonna study a new rule today, which would actually be about the rules of Mad. We're gonna study some of the rules of Mad today. And inshallah, after that, we're gonna, I'll let you practice yourself the reading of short surah, just like we did before, inshallah. So first thing we're gonna start with today is, of course, revising the things that we talked about last time, starting from the very first lesson that we had before, which was about the 7 heavy letters and about the light letters in Arabic. So quickly, we said that we have 7 letters in the Arabic language that are always heavy, and they should always be heavy, and they are kha, sad, dad, ghain, ta, qaf, and dha. These 7 letters, when we read them in the Arabic language, we have to make their sound heavy. They are full mouth letters. Our mouth was gonna be full of air when we pronounce these letters. The rest of the Arabic language letters are light. They must be made in a light sound, in a weak sound, and we should make our mouth empty when we say them. So this is gonna happen to all the Arabic alphabet then, except 2 letters. They are Ra and Lam. We said that we have an exception for these 2 letters. These 2 letters, Ra and Lam, when we pronounce them, they sometimes can be heavy, they sometimes can be light, and that depends on the haraka that we have on each one, and of course, sometimes on the word before it. So for Ra, it depends on the haraka it has. Fatha or Dhamma, we're gonna make it heavy. If it has a kasra, then we're gonna make it light. For Lam, we look at the word before the word Allah itself, because we only make it heavy in the word Allah. Other than that, Lam is a light letter. So in the word Allah, we check the letter before it. If it has a fatha or a dhamma, make it heavy. If it has a kasra, we then make it light. After this, we started talking about the rules of Noon, Sakina, and Tanween. We said that we have 4 rules for Noon, Sakina, and Tanween. We have Al-Izhar, which means clarity, which means we have to make the sound of the Noon Sakina that we read, or the sound of the Tanween that we read clear. And we had also Al-Idgham, which means merging, which means that we are going to merge the sound of the Nun Sakina or the Tanween we have into the next letter. We talked about that we have 2 types for that. One with Ghunna, with the nasal cavity sound, and the other one is without Ghunna, without the nasal cavity sound. After that, we talked about Al-Iqlab, and we said that that's actually exchanging the sound of the Nun Sakina or the sound of the Tanween that we have to be a sound of a hidden meme. And the last one was Al-Ikhfa, which means hiding the sound of the Nun Sakina and Tanween. When should we apply one of these 4 rules? That depends on the letter we have after the Nun Sakina or after the Tanween that we have. So we said that for applying Al-Idhar, we must have any of the 6 letters of Idhar, which are Hamza, Ha, Ain, Ha, Ghain, and Ha. After that, we said that we have al-idgham, which must be applied with one of 6 letters too. They are in the word yarmalun. The 6 letters in the word yarmalun that we have, 4 of them are going to be for idgham with ghunna, which are ya, nun, mim, and waw. For idgham without ghunna, we have ra and lam. We talked about al-iqlab. It has only one letter, which is ba. So once we see ba after nun sakina and tanween, we're gonna apply al-iqlab. The last one was al-ikhfa, which has the rest of the Arabic alphabet. So we apply it with the rest of the letters. Does anybody of you have any questions about this? About maybe everything we talked about previously? So quickly, to remind you of what we do, so we basically check the word that we have that has a nun sakin or a tanween. Let's say this word is min or man. And then let's imagine the next word is kana. So we check the nun sakin that we have. We check the next letter after it. If it's a letter of idhar, we apply idhar. Idgham, we apply idgham. Iqlab, we apply iqlab. Ikhfa, like here we have kaf. Kaf is a letter of iqlab because it is not in any of these three groups. It's actually in the fourth group, which is the group of ikhfa. So we're gonna apply al-ikhfa to this noon sakina we have right here. What are we going to do to this noon sakina? Basically, we're gonna hide its sound, and we're gonna replace the sound of that we hidden with a sound of a gunna only with a nasal cavity sound. So we're gonna say man kana. Same way, if we have a word like man, and then we have after it the word amila. Amila. If we look closely here, we can find there's a nun sakina, which means we have to apply one of these four. Which one? The letter after the nun sakina is ayn. Ayn, we can see it over here. It's in al-idhar, which means the clarity, which means making nun clear and normal without any change. So we're gonna say man amila. Simple as that. Can you let me know in the chat if you have any questions about any of these rules?
I think it's clear, sir. Ikhfa, we have to practice more.
Inshallah, yes. Then inshallah, the practicing part at the end, we can do some more practicing in the surah that we're gonna have, inshallah. Today we're gonna talk about al-mad. The word al-mad, which means in Arabic like stretching something, or we can say prolonging something, making something longer. This is what we call as al-mad in Arabic. That's the meaning of it. And we have al-mad in our reading, which basically means sometimes we stretch some letters in our reading, make them longer than what we usually have. What that means basically, like when you hear the reciters reciting Quran, you can see that with some letters or maybe in some words, you can feel like they are stretching their sound, and you can hear that they are beautifying their sound with the stretching that they actually do. So this stretching that we do while we are reciting Quran, do we just make it randomly, or do we have some certain rules for it? The answer is we have some certain rules for how we can stretch the sound of the letters that we have, or the sound of the gunna that we have. I mean the sound of the vowel letter that we have. Let's understand how this actually works. First thing is understanding the basic, the basic way of making the mad or the stretching that we do. We do stretching naturally while we are reading Quran, and that happens whenever we find in any of these three letters. These three letters that we have right here are alif, waw, and ya. So now we know that it's something that we don't have to deliberately do, that naturally, when any of you read Quran, stretch the sound of letter alif when it has nothing on it, and before it a letter with fatha. So that's the form that we can see in the Quran. Same thing we do to the waw. If we have it and the letter before it has a dhamma on it, that's how it should look like. Letter was dhamma followed by waw. And at the end here, same thing. If we find the letter ya and before it the letter was kasra, that basically means that we're gonna stretch the sound of the alif or the waw or the ya here. It's something naturally. But we don't make it too long. We just make it 2 counts long only. 2 counts long means that we're just gonna make it like a natural sound, like one count sound for the letter that we are originally saying. And after this, we're gonna make a little bit an additional stretching to cover the alif or the waw or the ya sound. So it's simple. Let's bring an example, just any letter, just to understand how this works. So letter like letter meme, I have it here. When I have it with fatha, I say ma. That's it. What if I added an alif to it? So I have now the form that I talked about. An alif, and before it a letter with fatha. So I say ma. And instead of just saying ma, I said ma, just a little bit of a stretching, which is the 2 counts long mad that we said. Same thing I do if meme has kasra. It's me, just me. But when I add a ya after it, I have now the form of ya and before it a letter with kasra. So I will say me, okay? Me, that's the short sound of meme only. Me, that's the long sound. Same thing with waw. Meme again has a dhamma on it, so I should say then mu. All right, what should I do next? If I added a waw to it, that will force me to stretch the count of the meme here to be mu, to be a little bit longer than normal, which is 2 counts long. Okay, what do we call this? This is something we call as original med. Original med. That's the basic form of med that we can have, which is only just making an additional count, just an additional sound, like a very small sound. But it makes difference to our reading though, which means we have to do it every time. So what is this called? Original med, 2 counts. Just like what we can read here, you can see that it says the original med is actually 2 counts long only. This is only the original med that is 2 counts. We have some other types that
Sir,
have
what do we
2 counts
what do
too.
you call this 2 counts mud in Arabic? What is it called as?
It's
Mud
called
tawil, mud saghir, or
المد الأصلي.
al asli? Okay. Okay.
Yes. The other ones you're mentioning, like Saphir and all of this is could be like very advanced. We don't need it now. Just need to know the basics so we can make a very good basic reading, and then we can go to these additional tajweed rules. So what we have here is al-mad al-asli, which is the original mad, which is the 2 counts long only mad. There is the substitute med, the sila med, the replacement, all of this. We're gonna do inshallah this later. This is like these are here types of med that are similar to the original med, which is only 2 counts long, as we can see here the numbers. This is 2 counts, this is two, this is two, this is two. Let's talk about the ones that we stretch more than two, that we make, as we can see here, 4 or 5. Okay. So those are like the derived med or the additional med. What that basically means is the alif and the waw and the ya that we mentioned earlier, instead of just making 2 counts long, just like we do naturally, like we do originally, we are going to make them longer than normal. So, but this has to be with a rule. And the rule, just to make it simple, just to understand how this works, there has to be something after the med letter itself that can allow me to do this stretching. This could be one of two things. One thing is having letter hamza after the med letter that we have, after the alif, after the waw, after the ya. The other way is having sukoon after the med, which means we would have a letter that has a sukoon on it after the med letter that we have. So again, we are here talking about the cases when we make the stretching or the med more than 2 counts long, more than just the ba, the b, the bu that we did earlier. More than this, it has to be one of two cases, one of two reasons for making this stretching to be more than 2 counts long. These two reasons are having a hamza after the med letter or having a sukoon after the med letter. Okay? Let's have a better understanding of this. Hamza, what does it mean to have a hamza? So when I have a word, like maybe letter Jim, with fatha on it, that's ja. I'm going to make it longer when I have an alif after it. So it's going to be ja, ja. Having hamza after this mad letter, which would look like this, That's letter Hamza. Then in this case, I'm going to stretch this alif I have right here to be 4 or 5 counts. How do I do this then? I'm going to read this word as جاء. One more time. جاء. Why did I do this stretching? Because I have Hamza exist right here, right after this alif that I have. Okay. One thing to clarify more also about sukun. Sukun, I would have a letter with sukun. Usually when I stop at the end of an ayah, like for example, when I say Bismillahir Rahman Ar-Rahim. Let's write down the word Ar-Rahim. I have ha with kasra, first thing, and then I have ya, which means that this ya I'm going to stretch to make it like longer, like to make this ha longer. So it's like Ar-Rahim, and then I have a meme, and this meme is going to be with sukoon. Originally, in writing, it's not with sukoon, but because we stop on it, because after we say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, we stop, and then we read maybe the first ayah of the next surah or Surah Al-Fatiha. So because I stop, I'm going to make this meme I'm reading with the sukoon sound. So naturally, I would say Ar-Rahim. But because I have sukoon after this ya, this allows me to make this ya longer than just 2 counts long. So originally it's 2 counts, as we said, but I can make it 4. I can choose to do this 4 counts. I can choose to make it also 6 counts. This is an optional method, which means it's not something mandatory I have to do every time I read the ya. So I can just say Ar-Rahim. That's one of the options I have. I can also say Ar-Rahim. What did I do here? I did stretch this ya I have right here. I made it longer in reading. And that was 4 counts. Let's try making this ya 6 counts. This is going to be like Ar-Rahim. All right, perfect. So I couldn't understand now that the mad letters, the alif or the waw or the ya, I can make them more than 2 counts. That has to be with a certain rule. And that certain rule could be because of 2 cases, 2 scenarios that I would have. It's either having a hamza after the letter of mad, just like in the word ja'a, or having a sukoon after the letter of mad I have, like the word ar-rahim, or any word that we have a letter that is a mad letter, and that is before the last letter in my word, because I'm going to make the last letter in any word with sukoon, because I'm going to stop on it, and that would be on the end of ayahs, as we know. Okay, at the end of each ayah, we stop. With that stopping, we make the last letter that we have with sukoon, so that makes the sound of the ending letter, like meme here, with sukoon sound, and that allows me to make the letter before it to be longer, more than 2 counts. Let's understand these rules so we avoid making mistakes, so we can avoid overstretching letters and also shortening something that must be prolonged. So we have to, of course, understand the rule. What are the rules that we're going to talk about? We're going to talk about like one of the types of mad called al-mad al-muttasil. Al-mad al-muttasil. Of course, for every rule, we have a meaning for it. So the word muttasil means connected. When I have like 2 things connected to each other, this is gonna be the type of mad meaning that I have here. I would have something connected. So let's find out what that is. And let's read what it says over here. It says that this mad is so named because the hamza follows the mad letter within one word. Let's look at the words we have right here. Let me make this a little bit closer so it can be clear. This word right here is ta'ifa. I have letter ta followed by alif. That's the original mad I know about. Having an alif before it, a letter with fatha. All right, what do I have next to the alif? I have the letter which I call letter hamza. Letter hamza is the letter that I read as a, e, u. It can look like this. let's ignore the fatha. Can be look like, sometimes it can look like this form. This is a letter, we call it as hamza, but we read it as a, e, u in the middle of our reading. So just the name itself is hamza. So that is a form of hamza. This could be a form of hamza. This could be a form of hamza too. This could be a form of hamza. This could be a form of hamza. You see all of this. This could be a form of hamza. This could be a form of hamza. What is this? What is all of this? This is just one letter, but this is how it might look like in the words that we read. So this is the shape of hamza, the original shape that we might have, which is without anything. And that would be like if we have hamza separately at the end of a word. All these cases, we can see hamza is on the top of something or in the bottom of something. And that's because in the middle of the word, we would need to have something like a letter that could carry this hamza on it, that we can have hamza on it. So this is not an alif that we have here. This is not a waw. This is not a ya. These are actually hamza letter, but they are just carrying the hamza sound. So whenever I see these letters, that's gonna be a, e, u. So that's their sound. We check the haraka they have. Fatha, all these forms are going to be a. Kasra, all these forms are going to be e. Dhamma, all these forms we have here are going to be u. So it depends on the haraka that it has. Its sound is going to change, but we're going to have the same shape every time. Over here, we can see the hamza that we have has this
Sorry,
sound
sir,
right there.
interrupting you. Sorry. So this classification, I'm not able to make it. How you were saying Dhamma, Kasra, and Fatha, and in the Hamza. Can you repeat that last part?
Sure. So you see that letter we have here? It can be with fatha. Fatha is the dash on the top. Maybe you call it in a different way, like you have another name for it in your country.
And
Like most countries have names for it,
in
right?
Urdu, we call it a Zabar. Zabar.
Right. Yeah, I've heard this. I have heard all of this, but of course, it's difficult for me to know all of this. So I
Yeah,
just
it's okay.
know the names we have in Arabic. So fatha is this a. Uh, with fatha it will be a. If we have the dash on the bottom, it's going to be e. Okay, so that's the kasra. That's what I call as kasra. And this shape is what I call as dhamma, which is u.
You mean if there is a sign, then it is clear, but our confusion is when there is no sign. Are you saying these are applicable when there's no sign also? I mean, there's no sign of Dhamma or there's no sign of Kasra or Fatha, or there will always be a
Every
sign.
time, matter of fact is, every time you will have hamza, you're gonna find one of the symbols, one of the signs. The signs is going to tell you whether this is hamza was fatha, hamza was kasra,
Fine. Okay.
hamza was
That's
dhamma.
okay. Then it's
The
clear.
letter that letter that we will have nothing on it is going to be alif or waw or ya. This is the letter that we wouldn't have anything on it because that's a mad letter, just a vowel letter. Okay. The only thing we can see on them is the mad design, which looks like this. And I'm so glad you mentioned something like this, that we're gonna have this little like sign on the top of the alif or the waw or the ya to mean that they are going to be stretching. So this
In
sample
English,
would
this
help us.
sign is called as a tilde sign, TILD, tilde. In the
Uh-huh.
keyboard, English keyboard, we have this sign. This is called as a tilde sign, TILD.
Uh-huh. Very good. Okay. So that basically means in Quran when we read it, that means the alif or the waw or the ya that we have, there is a reason exists there that can allow this alif or waw or ya to be stretched more than 2 counts long. But of course, we have to know the rules so we can properly apply the proper rule that we have. Okay, let's get back to al-mad al-muttasil, which is the type of mad that we talk about right now. That will let us understand what should we do to the hamza that we have after a mad letter. The word ta'ifa, what is happening here? I have an alif followed by hamza that tells me automatically that I'm going to apply al-mad al-muttasil, which is I'm going to make this alif either 4 or 5 counts long, and this is mandatory, which means I have to do it every time. Every time I read مد متصل, I'm going to make this alif or the waw or the ya 4 to 5 counts long. Example will clarify this to us. So this first word I have here is طائفة. Okay, let's look at the second word. Letter was fatha followed by alif. Alif has the mad sign that tells me I'm going to stretch this alif just to help me. And then I have here hamza letter. What am I going to do to this alif? I'm going to stretch it 4 or 5 counts long. So I will say عائلا. All right. What do I have next? I have this word. It has letter ya. Ya is followed by hamza. I have mad sign on the ya itself. That tells me something that I can stretch this ya. I have to stretch this ya 4 to 5 counts long. So I will say خطيئة خطيئة. I hope this is clear so far. Let's look at the next letter. I have alif. Alif is a mad letter. Mad sign is over there, and then hamza. Hamza again. So I have to force my tongue to stretch this alif. I will say جاء. All right. Let's look at the next word here. Zai was fatha, and then alif again, and then hamza. جزاء. All right. Wow with a mad sign and followed by hamza. So I stretch this alif I have in the middle here. Here I have an alif here after a lam. Mala. And then a mad sign, of course, and a hamza again. Malaika. Notice that what I'm doing here every time is I have a mad letter. A mad letter can be one of three. Alif, waw, or ya. I'm going to stretch it because I can find after it letter hamza. What is letter hamza? It's the letter that we did right over there about that it can be in two mini forms. It can be like this, that, so on. Okay. Last word, I have ha. I actually have here, I would follow that one we have here, which is I have an alif. It has a mad sign, it has hamza. At the beginning of the word, of course, I have also ha and alif and hamza. So I have to mad here in this word. So I'm going to say هؤلاء, just like this. Do you have any questions about this? Can you let me know in the chat? Is it clear? Is it clear what we said for about Ahmad al-Muttasil? Very good. وإياكم. Another type we're going to talk about, which is pretty similar to the first one, is called al-munfasil. Al-mad al-munfasil. What is the meaning of the word munfasil again? If you remember, we mentioned earlier that the word al-muttasil means connected. So al-munfasil means actually separated. It's the opposite of it. So we have a separated mad here. We have a mad letter and a hamza, but this time is separated. What does that mean? How does that look like? Let's find out. So this mad, if a mad letter occurs at the end of a word, and the following word begins with hamza, i.e. the vowel and the hamza are separated, lengthening beyond 2 counts is optional. One may hold the mad letter for either 2, 4, or 5 counts, but must be consistent in all of this. What does that mean? If we look at these examples right here, we can find there's a word that says ya, another word which is ayyuha. What is happening here is at the end of the word, the first word I have, there's an alif. And after this first word, I have another word which begins with hamza. So I have here alif, a mad letter. And I have after it a hamza. This is a reason to make a mad, of course, as we know. But I don't have here, I don't have them connected to each other in the same word. I have one at the end of a word. I have the mad letter at the end of a word. And I have at the beginning of the next word to it is actually hamza. So which means there's a mad due to having hamza here. What should I do? Should I make the mad or not? This is an optional mad, and this is what we call as al-mad al-munfasil. So what I'm going to do is either choose to make it short and to make it 2 counts long only, like the original med that we mentioned before. That's one of the choices that I have. The other choice I have is to make it 4 or 5 counts long. Like what? Like what I did earlier with al-mad al-muttasil. So it can be similar to two types. It could be original mad, only 2 counts. It could be made 4 to 5 counts, like al-mad al-muttasil. One important thing that we have to note here is that we have to be consistent in all our reading, which means in every case, in every example, when we have mad munfasil, separated mad letter in a word and another and actually hamza in the next word, we are going to be making the same number of counts every time. So if we decided to make it only 2 counts, that means in every mad munfasil example, we have to be consistent in making it only 2 counts. In case if we decided to make it 4 counts, for example, we have to be consistent every time we read an example of mad munfasil to make it only 4 counts, not more, not less. That's the most important thing. So back here, how do we read this word? If I decided to read it with the first choice, which is making it only 2 counts, like al-mad al-muttasil, I'm going to say, Ya ayyuhan nasu. I did shorten it. I did made it only 2 counts because I choose to make it only like al-mad al-asli, which is only 2 counts. Let's say I decided to make it 4 counts, like muttasil, which is the other choice I have, I can do. I'm going to say, Ya ayyuhan nasu. I hope the idea is clear. Same thing I can do with all next examples I have here. I have here ya in a word, fi, and then anfusikum is another word. I can make it only 2 counts. Fi, so it's gonna be fi anfusikum. I can decide to make it 4 counts. So it's going to be fi anfusikum. One more example. Waw followed by Hamza. Waw is a mad letter. Hamza in the word next to it. I will say قُوا أنفسكم. That's by shortening it and making it only 2. قُوا أنفسكم. This is by making it 4 counts long. One more example. I have waw here. I have this is a hamza actually, but it's not written in the form that we know. It's written as like the double hamza form. This word is قالوا آمنا. And if I made it 4 counts, I would say قالوا آمنا. So in all these examples, should I make it only 2 or should I make it 4? It's your choice, but you have to be consistent with your choice. That's up to you, of course, up to everyone, of
Huh?
course, to do.
Consistent across the specific qiraat, or if you adopt a particular pattern, then you throughout your whole let's say reading career you be consistent. So
Yes, it's of course related to the qira'at. Each qira'ah has certain rules. In our qira'ah, which is Hafs and Asim, which is the most popular qira'ah, we have the 2 ways. So some of the qira'ah readers read the short way of making this mad only 2 counts. Some of them read it with making it long. So we have the choice to imitate any of them. And both ways, of course, are correct. Okay? I hope it's clear. Let's read the next example also. We have repeated examples here in this one. You can see there's an alif followed by hamza here. Again, alif and hamza. Again, there, alif and hamza, and so on. So what are we going to do? Basically, we will, sorry. Yeah, so I can choose to make all of them only 2 counts. So I would say, إنا أوحينا إليك كما أوحينا إلى نوح. That's by shortening all the mad examples we have. I can decide to make it long, all of them. I will say, إنا أوحينا إليك كما أوحينا إلى نوح. That's by stretching the mad munfasil cases that we have. This is here لا إله إلا الله. I have an alif here followed by hamza. I did shorten it. I can also say لا إله إلا هو. Sorry, that's who. So that's by making it longer. So remember, just one thing to remind you of, we had two examples, two types of mad so far. We had the disconnected mad, which is having the mad letter and the hamza in two different words. Earlier, what we had was having the mad letter and the hamza, both are in the same word. The one in the same word, we have to make it 4 to 5 counts long. It's a mandatory mad. But the one which is between two words, we have the choice, which is making it either 2 counts long only or 4 counts long mad only. What is the difference between the two types of mad again? Hamza and the mad muttasil, the first one, the connected mad. Hamza and the mad letter, they are both in one word, like the word ja'a. That's one word. That's one word in Arabic. Ja'a. Inside this word, I have the alif, the mad letter, and I have letter to make it longer, which is the hamza. Both are in the same word. But in case if I have like the word like inna a'tainaka, inna a'tainaka. I have the word inna, that's a separate word in Arabic. A'tainaka is another one. And I have the mad, the reason to make the mad between both. So this is what I call as the mad munfasil, separated. Because the reason to make the mad is not in just one word, in one single word, distributed between two words. One reason, which is the mad letter at the end of the first word, at the beginning of the next word, the hamza letter after it. What do I have to do then? I have the choice to make it only 2 counts, to shorten it to sound, just like we did. You have the choice also to make it longer, 4 counts. So the mad muttasil, the connected one we mentioned before, is mandatory. It has to be 4 to 5. The disconnected mad, the one between two words, I have the choice. I can make it short, 2 counts. I can make it longer, 4 to 5 counts. I hope it's clear so far. And the joint one is called as mad muttasil, the one which is joint, muttasil, connected. And the disconnected is called munfasil. The connected mad is the disconnected, the one between two words, is called munfasil. Okay. I hope this is clear. Let's move to the reading. We're gonna read, of course, a surah that has like some of these examples we talked about. So let's see. The surah that we will read today is Surah Al-Qadr. I'll share it with you, and let's see. Yeah. So Shiraz, yeah, you can read first. I'll let you read Surah Al-Qadr. Maybe after it we can read another surah. Let's start with this one.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنا أنزلناه في ليلة القدر وما أدراك ما ليلة القدر ليلة القدر خير من 1000 شهر تنزل الملائكة والروح فيها بإذن ربهم من كل أمر سلام هي حتى مطلع الفجر.
Barakallahu feek. Excellent. Could you find the examples that we had in this surah here of mad muttasil and munfasil,
So the first one in is Mad al Munfasil.
right?
Then
Alif
we
here
have Wama
and Zay.
Adaraka is also the same.
Mhm.
Mad al Munfasil.
Wama
Then
adraka, Alif and Hamza. Perfect.
separate,
We have
yeah.
more.
And we have Tanazzalul Malaikatu is the second one. Mad al what is that?
That's the
The second
joint one,
example, the
muttasil.
joint one.
That's the first one we mentioned, which is the one mandatory we have to make. You have to make it
This is
four
Mad
to
al
five.
Asal. Okay, Mad al Asal. Okay.
Not asli, like the asli, which is the not natural, which is only two, the short one. Okay.
Okay.
This is the muttasil, which is the connected. We have to make it 4 to 5. So the first two examples we have here are منفصل, disconnected,
منفصل. Okay.
between two words. إنا أنزلناه. Those are two words. وما أدراك. Those are also two words. But الملائكة is just one word. You know, it means angels, so it's just one word. So having the
Mm-hmm.
alif here and the hamza in that same word, that's متصل, the connected one. Okay?
Okay. Clear.
All right. Barakallah fiqh. How about Shahbaz? Can you read?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إنا أنزلناه في ليلة القدر وما أدراك ما ليلة القدر. ليلة القدر خير من ألف شهر. تنزل الملائكة والروح فيها بإذن ربهم من كل أمر. سلام هي حتى مطلع الفجر.
Barakallah fiqh. Do you have any questions about the two types of mad we talked about today?
No, clear.
Barakallah fiqh. Would like to remind you of something. Reading of letter Ra in أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. So الرجيم, it has the Ra, it's an heavy sound, like Ra. We don't make it weak. Ar-Rajim, same thing. Bismillahir Rahman, the word Ar-Rahman, it has the Ra again. The Ar-Rahim. So both are like both all of these Ra's are actually heavy. They must be like Ra, not weak, not like they must be made heavy. Let's practice another surah and let's find out more examples of med rules. 1 second. Let's get to surah. Um, let's do a short one. 1 second.
I think Kafirun, Surah Kafirun, I think it has more.
Yes, that's right. I'm just looking for it. Okay. All right, Shiraz, you can read.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل يا أيها الكافرون لا أعبد ما تعبدون ولا أنتم عابدون ما أعبد ولا أنا عابد ما عبدتم ولا أنتم عابدون ما أعبد لكم دينكم
Again,
ولي
أعبد.
دين.
أعبد, one more time.
ما أعبد
Perfect.
ما أعبد.
Yes, barakallah fi. Shahbaz, you can also read. Remember also the Ra, we said, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Please go ahead.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم.
So
بسم
that's the
الله
Ra,
الرحمن
الرجيم again.
الرحيم. Sorry.
الرجيم.
الرجيم.
Yes,
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
that's very good. Barakallah fi.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Mhm.
قل يا أيها الكافرون لا أعبد ما تعبدون ولا أنتم عابدون ما أعبد ولا أنا عابد ما عبدتم
عابد, the عين here.
ولا أنا عابد ما عبدتم ولا أنتم عابدون ما أعبد لكم دينكم ولي دين.
Barakallah fiqh, excellent. One more thing, we have of course to be consistent every time we read mad munfasil. What are the examples of mad munfasil? The disconnected one we have here. We have ya ayyuha. We have la a'budu, alif and hamza. Wala antum. That's one more here. Wala ana. Wala antum. And ma a'budu. So we can choose to shorten all of them. We can choose to stretch all of them, but we have to be consistent every time. We also have here ma a'budu. So I can say قل يا أيها. That's the long way. قل يا أيها. That's the short way. I have the choice to make both. And by the way, here ya and أيها, those are like two different words. They are written as one, but they're actually two different words. Ya أيها. All right. Have any questions?
No, it's very good class. Jazakallah khair.
وإياكم. Do you have yeah, I think Shahbaz, do you have any questions about anything we talked about today? And also Shiraz, please let me know.
جزاك الله. All clear.
If you
What
have,
about
sir, just like the last time you shared the PDF, if you have it for this one also as a practice, and the first ones with the heavy and light letters, so or you can write if you have it written already, then it will be good also too. So
Inshallah,
I
I'll send
remember,
it.
I keep remembering 4 or 5 of them, but there are 7, so I always miss the other 2.
Inshallah, I'll send that to you. And inshallah on Telegram, the Telegram channel, I'll forward that to that channel so everybody can
Okay,
download it
okay,
from there. Inshallah.
that will be great. Yeah, Jazakallah khair. Thank you.
Alhamdulillah.